From Viking invasions to Roman occupation, from countryside to coast, from historic wars between the English and the Scots to modern warfare, from a Scottish queen to a gypsy queen, from an artist from Manchester who regularly painted here to a local heroine who became a national icon, to boots discarded from weary walkers, from churches and abbeys to the ruins of priories, and stunning scenery on the way. Join us over the next few weeks as we follow the route of the stunning Northumberland 250. A bit of decadence. Keith's gone for a lemon cheesecake, and I've gone for a orange Jaffa cheesecake with coffee. We've arrived in Otterburn. We're at Otterburn Mill, with some stories to tell after we've had this. It were very, very tasty, and it didn't last for long. Regulations for self-acting mules. Regulations, in fact, for factories in which self-acting mules are used. We'll have a quick look around the mill later. Nice place. One of the old looms there, weaving loom. I will show you something in the other bit that made Bay jump when I walked in with them. In the entrance here, I walked in with Bay while Keith was ordering, and she came face to face with this, and it made her jump. What's this, Bay? Bay, look, Bay, look. Made you jump when you walked in, didn't it? Double take. So there's some of the machinery from the mill. Otterburn Mill operated as a successful textile mill from the 1820s until 1976, so quite recent really. Starting as a cottage industry, the Waddell family made Otterburn Mill world famous for its tweeds and blankets. Outside the mill there's this, which is a Cornish boiler.
Coal-fired, used to produce steam and water for washing the woolen cloth.
The boiler worked on a water jacket principle with a maximum working pressure of 50 pounds per square inch. In the first half of the 20th century, tramps regularly slept overnight next to the boiler for warmth. Well, I hope you're enjoying this trip so far. It's only day 2, but we're seeing a lot. Sometimes it's quite nice following a route, isn't it? And having a semi-plan.
Yes, rather than just wandering and drifting.
Yeah. So we're coming into the village of Otterburn now after visiting the mill. It was very nice coffee and very nice cheesecake, I have to say. So we're not going to get out here because there's actually not a lot to see. But some interesting history nonetheless. In 1388, there was a battle between the Scots and the English in this village. Sir Henry Percy, nicknamed Hotspur, suffered a bloody defeat by the Scots. Over 1,000 of the English army were taken, left dead on the battlefield, or slain as they fled. The dead were taken to Elsdon Church, which is a village not too far away, where they were buried. The English army consisted of 8,000 men, so it was a big army, wasn't it?
Well,
and now, after visiting the Roman town before and the Roman army, we're off to drive past a modern day army place. Otterburn Rangers. 72 miles to Edinburgh, so we're not too far really from the Scottish borders, are we? There's a sign there for Otterburn Camp, which is a British Army camp. I'm going to try and drive past it because there's a bit of interesting information about that place. Signs for warning signs, slow moving military vehicles. So Otterburn Camp has the second largest firing range in the UK, and it's been used for military purposes since 1911. And amazingly, it covers over 90 square miles. That's 90 square miles. It's massive.
It is. Isn't it the only one that they can fire some of the larger rockets?
It's the only place in the UK where MLRS, multiple launch rocket system, can be fired, as it requires an 11-mile long, 2-mile wide firing range. You can walk here sometimes. Obviously have to, if the red flags are flying, you can't. But that's a massive piece of land they've got, isn't it?
It is.
The camp's just up that way. I can't see any red flags, but we don't want to be target practice. So we're just outside the village of Otterburn now. There's quite a story about this place. In 1388, there was a battle between the Scots and the English, and Sir Henry Percy, nicknamed Hotspur, suffered a bloody defeat by the Scots. Over 1,000 of the English army were taken, left for dead on the battlefield, or were slain as they fled. The dead were taken to Elsdon Church, which isn't too far away, where they were buried. And the English army consisted of 8,000 people, so it was a massive army. And this looks like it's a little memorial. Mm.
No inscription at all, but
no, there's a plaque up here. No, don't go over the wall. No, Nab, good boy. Oh, it's just a picture. No, Nab. Picture depicting the battle. Ooh. Nab,
get here.
Nab, come here. Nab, good boy.
Nicely secluded little cot.
It is, isn't it? There aren't any signs here to say no overnight parking, but there are houses nearby, aren't there? So it won't be very fair. There are some information boards down by the van, so we'll have a look at those. There's 3 information boards here. First is the scene is set. On this ground, on August the 5th, 1388, 2 armies met. an English force of about 8,000 strong and a Scottish force perhaps half that size. So they did well to win then. Fought a battle in fading summer light. Thanks to surviving border ballads, this would become one of the most famous battles in the 300 Years' War. This deadly and sustained conflict left northern England and the Scottish marches forever marked. The French, linked to Scotland by the Old Alliance, played a significant role. They were also frequently at odds with England, and the Scots fought the English on French soil as well as here. Of all the battles and encounterings that I have made mention in this history, great or small, this battle that I treat of now was of the sorest and best foughten without cowardice or faint hearts. Sir Jean Froissart, chronicler, 1338 to 1400-ish. The Earl of Dunbar and March had been an architect of a Scottish resurgence since 1370, and in 1388, following a period of English dominance, he launched a two-pronged assault. The main force under the Earl of Fife would strike through the English West March. Another brigade would pretend to attack towards the English East March. And some more about the days before the battle. Picture there of geophysics with a belt buckle. Circa 1350-1650 was found during a metal detecting survey. And this geophys was quite recent. It was in August 2021. Dunbar and the second Earl of Douglas led a company of experienced Scottish knights south into England's East March. Mounted on fast-moving horses, they struck with bewildering speed. They dazzled local forces as they rampaged as far as Durham, paralysing any effective response. Contemporary accounts tell us that Douglas moved on to Newcastle, where he may have sparred with the English local commander, Sir Henry Percy. He was the eldest son of the first Earl Percy of Northumberland. Young Percy had been given the name Hotspur. The only Hotspur I know is from the comics.
Yes, me too.
Back in the day. So young Percy had been given the nickname Hotspur by Scots impressed with his famous recklessness, and sources imply that Douglas may have seized Hotspur's knightly standard during the skirmish. This slur would have demanded a response. Hotspur realised the Scots were only a raiding party, and he rapidly mobilised available troops and pursued the raiders past Ponteland and Cambo, and over what is now the Harwood Road to Elsdon, which is where the dead were buried. Douglas and Dunbar were encamped just north of Otterburn, resting their men, and they pilfered livestock, and by early evening of that summer's afternoon, Hotspur was close by, and a nighttime battle loomed. In the battle itself, Hotspur, true to his reputation, decided to strike immediately at dusk in case of the Scots decided to decamp that night and escape. He divided his forces, sending a brigade to attack what he may have thought was the Scots' main camp, but it wasn't. This camp was located near Greenchesters on the fertile grazing land near the river. Hotspur may have guessed there was another camp to the north on the vital high ground, but it wasn't visible from his position. Dunbar had indeed camped above Greenchesters and had a plan already in mind. Surprised by the speed of the English approach, he sent urgent reinforcements to the lower camp. Meanwhile, Douglas led a brilliant flanking manoeuvre. Screened by woodland and dead ground invisible to the English, he descended through a shallow gorge to fall unexpectedly on Hotspur's exposed flank. The tactic was a brilliant success, but it cost Douglas his life. Hotspur and his brother Ralph were captured and the English forces driven off the battlefield. The Scots had won. Casualties from medieval battles are hard to determine. Perhaps 500 died on either side, and numerous English knights were taken prisoner. And it says here, some of the dead may be buried nearby at St Cuthbert's Church in Elsdon, and are commemorated at this site by the Percy Cross, which is what we saw up there.
Yeah.
But when I was looking on Google, it said about the number that I mentioned earlier, so
a lot more.
I suppose, again, history's lost and we won't really know the true number.
No.
So you've had the Roman army, you've had the modern army, and you've had this army. He's smirking at me. You can't see him smirking at me from medieval times ish. He's laughing at me. Don't laugh at me. He's laughing at me, Nab.
It's a shame, isn't it, Nab? From the 1300s.
So you know what I'm like with
14th century.
You know what I'm like with my periods. What period's that?
The 14th century.
Yeah, but what period is it?
Probably is medieval.
Oh, there you go. He's laughing at me, Nab. And now it's time to go and find a park up. We're going to have a look at one, see if it's suitable that we found on Park for night. It's going to be a cold night. Say that we'd have to go through a gate. I'll do the honours.
Well, you've got to, because I'm driving.
We'll stay on.
Do we leave him or do we pick him up? What do you reckon? Make him walk. Hey babe, you make him walk. Do we make him walk?
Do you want a tip? Might give you one later. You wouldn't make me walk, would you, Bay? Hey, you wouldn't make me walk. I know you wouldn't, good girl. Nor would you, Nab, I know. Kettle's on, time for a cup of tea. Keith's just taking Nab and Bay for a walk in the woods while I make a brew. The bag up there. A couple of people have said, what's that bag? What's that orange and grey bag that hangs around in your van? It's actually a dry bag, but we use it as a bin bag. It's pretty handy actually, because you can put all your rubbish in there. We don't have a bin bag lining it or anything. You just put all your rubbish in there, and then when it's full or needs emptying, we just tip it into a bin bag, and then we can put that into a bin somewhere. But the nice thing about that is, because it's a dry bag, you can actually wash it out when it gets a bit smelly, and also you can wrap the top and seal it so there are no smells escaping from it if you're not able to empty it right away. So yeah, it's just a dry bag that we got off Amazon a few years ago, and it works well because we got sick of white pedal bin liners flapping around, or black bin bags flapping around that we were filling with rubbish all the time. So yeah, a little tip there that we find really handy rather than using bin bags or bin liners. This is us for the night. Nice woodland walk for the dogs. It's roadside parking, but it's handy for the dogs. And we've got a nice view. The sun's just setting. So it's time for tea. Simple one tonight. I just had a walk to look at some water that Keith found that might do for a dip tomorrow, but I've just looked at it and said, it looks a bit cold. Go on. Yes, you're on this bit. Nab's been a bugger today. Every time we switch the camera on, he's been like, am I in this bit? Anyway, as I said before, time for tea. And time for their dinner.
Don't eat the grass.
Go on, you two. Yes, you're on the camera. Yes, it's looking at you. They're very happy dogs. I'll show you where we've been today then. So last night we were parked up just around this area, not too far from Derwent Reservoir. Then we followed the route, but then came off the route, went to Hexham, and back to Corbridge, to the Roman village. And then we came up, followed the route to Otterburn, which is just there. So we did more of a distance today. And now we're parked just around this area. Not far from the village of Elsdon, really, and we're around the Harwood Forest. And tomorrow we've got something to do to show you just here before we move on again to Rothbury. So that's for tomorrow. So further distance today travelled, but we've had longer to do it. Well, I said it was going to be a very simple tea. It's just the remainder of the chicken that we had on day one with the other Subway rolls, sub rolls, and that's it tonight because we had a big breakfast and then we had that cheesecake earlier, so that'll do for us. And with that, that's the end of day 2. Who knows? Well, we know what we'll get up to on day 3, but you'll have to come back and watch. That's all for now.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.